like to just take a moment, have a moment of silence to reflect and remember all our fallen loved ones. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all here together today to find comfort in each other, but mostly to find comfort in your loving arms. I feel blessed that I was given the opportunity to go to Iraq and finish Eric's mission. I feel comfort every day praying and thanking God for what I have, not for what I don't have. And I just thank each and every one of you, and I thank the Lord for giving me this opportunity to speak here today. In His heavenly name I pray, amen. Before I get started, I'd like to probably repeat a few things that Joe's probably already said, but I'd like to take care of a few thank yous. First off, I'd like to thank God for getting us here all safely today. And I want to thank each and every one of you for your hero sacrifice and service to our nation. I'd also like to thank Judith for founding this great organization for us. Her love and commitment to this group is simply awesome. And we're also grateful for you, Judith, for all your hard work. Okay, that's enough. Don't worry about that.
All right.
Now I got my wife telling me.
You gotta tell them about the slideshow.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a slideshow up here with some pictures. As I'm talking, and as well when I'm finished talking, there'll be some pictures there. So if you miss some of it now because of the screen and the seating, maybe afterwards you can kind of gather around and look at them if you want. If you have any questions or anything, I'd be more than happy to answer. To continue on with my thank yous, it's another repeat of what Joe had already said. I'd like to thank the Patriot Guard for being here and for the amazing job they do for all the military families. Bobby and I, my wife Bobby and I, are proud members of the Patriot Guard. And the Patriot Guard is kind of the way that began the mission that I'm about to share with you today. And just once again, thank you to the Patriot Guard. Now, as a speaker, I get pretty emotional at times. So I'm going to just bear with me, and I'll try to do the best I can. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Samme. Oh, and one other person that I forgot to thank. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife. Without her devotion and commitment, I'd have never been able to go on the journey that I did, and I'd just like to thank her. I love her very much. So I'll continue. My name's Samme, and I'm the very proud father of Lance Corporal Eric Anthony Palmisano, who along with 6 other Marines and a Navy corpsman drowned in Iraq on April the 2nd, 2006 in a tragic and needless 7-ton rollover accident. I can't believe it's been 5 years The 2nd of April was 5 years for us, and I just don't know where the time's gone. I guess, well, I don't have to explain it to you, you all know. I won't go into all the details about the accident, but we'll tell you that Eric was ordered by his captain, who was in charge of his very first convoy that day. And he was ordered to drive his 7-ton truck across an overflowing wadi. Wadis, normally in Iraq, these wadis are dry, and they have flash floods. And at the time they left that morning to go on their mission, there was only 6 inches of water in the wadi. The day after the accident, when they recovered the truck, there was 21 feet of water in it. Eric's body was washed away and was not recovered for 9 days. And his body was found 3.5 miles from where the truck overturned. At the time he was missing, I asked the Marine Corps if I could go over there and help them search for his body. But they told me, being a civilian, that they couldn't have a civilian in a combat zone, and there was no way. And as a father, well, you all know, you'd want to go help look for your son. About 2 months after Eric's funeral, we received a sympathy card, and it had close to 100 signatures on it. And it was all from some civilian truck drivers who drove on convoys with Eric and his unit in Iraq. My wife, Bobby, asked me, she said, I thought civilians weren't allowed to go over there. And a lot of them had signed this card with Semper Fi, all kinds of military sayings and what have you, and I just said to her, most of these guys are probably ex-military, and that's why they're over there, and I kind of let it pass. So now we kind of fast forward about 3.5 years. That's the card we received up there on the screen right now, and then the next slide, if we can get it to move, shows all the signatures. But anyway, about 3.5 years afterwards, as a Patriot Guard, we were at the airport in Kingsford, Michigan in November of 2009 to see a soldier that was home for Thanksgiving, and he was returning back to Afghanistan. And so we were there to see him off. And we have a tiny little airport that's probably not as big as this room. And this lady came up to us, and because of our care package project that we have, said, what you do with your care package project is just an awesome thing. We said, well, thank you very much, but we support the troops in any way we can. She said, well, I'm being here at 5 o'clock in the morning to see this soldier back to Afghanistan, that's pretty awesome too. And I said, well, like I said, we support our troops. And she said, well, my brother's returning to Iraq as well. Well, I kind of looked around the airport for another boy in uniform, and there wasn't any, and I said, who's your brother? And she pointed to a gentleman. I looked over, and he was kind of a short, little, pudgy, older fellow. So I walked up to him, as I do to all vets, extended my hand to thank him for his service, and he looked at me and he said, I was never in the service. So I said, well, what do you do in Iraq? And he said, I drive a truck. I said, I help support the military by delivering supplies. And the light went off. Well, here's my chance to go to Iraq. Maybe it wasn't to help look for our son, but he was killed only after, he was on an 8-month tour, and he was killed just 2 months after deployment. So he still had, I felt he still had 6 months left on his tour. So I said, well, this is my chance as a truck driver. I've been driving a truck for 30 years to go over there and finish off his mission. His MOS was truck driving. And my whole idea, and as you see in this picture again, was boots on the ground. Eric and I kind of butted heads about me being a truck driver because I missed a lot of soccer games, I missed a lot of birthdays. So he kind of, never got the idea, and I just said, well, it puts food on the table and it pays our bills, and until you walk a mile in my shoes, don't knock what I do. So this was my opportunity to walk a mile, excuse me, in his shoes. Anyway, goodness. Well, anyway, this was an opportunity for me to go, and I'd like to say that Bobby and I, we no longer believe in coincidences. Some people call them God winks, but we like to call them ripples. And I not only, excuse me, received many ripples on my mission in Iraq, but I also received some that could be called rumbles. It was as if God had his hand, excuse me, on my shoulders and kept turning me and pointing me in all the right directions. And I'm sure Eric was giving him all the right details in order for God to steer me down the right path. I won't share all of these ripples with you today, simply because Judith would be giving me the end it. But it would just take far too long. But I'd like to share a few that started the moment I arrived in Houston for orientation. I met a man in Houston who had a T-shirt with Eric's unit emblem on it, which you see up there in the picture right now. He thought I should have it, so he gave it to me, which was pretty awesome, and that was a ripple. He told me, I showed him the card that you saw up there earlier with all the signatures, and I asked him if he may have known anybody that was on the card, and he said I should talk with the operations manager there in Houston, because he believed he was over in Iraq in 2006. So I met with the operations manager, and I showed him the card, and I asked him if he knew anybody that was on any signatures on the card. And he pointed at one. He said, "Do you see that signature right there?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "That's mine." Excuse me. So that was the very first man I actually got to shake his hand and actually thank him for signing that card. That card meant a lot to Bobby and I when we received it. All in all, I was able to actually thank and shake hands with, I believe it was 8 different men that had signed the card, and one of them actually, that's him in the picture there, his call sign was Breeze. He was actually on the convoy the day Eric drowned, and we shared a lot of tears, a lot of hugs, and he told me it was one of the most helpless feelings he'd ever felt in his life was to sit in his truck and watch those Marines wash away. But the ripples, they just kept coming and coming. I finished my training in Houston and arrived in Iraq on March the 22nd, 2010, boots on the ground. I was finally there, hopeful to walk somewhere that Eric had walked. Little did I know that God had plans for me with Eric's help. The first base I went to, I was stationed in a camp called Anaconda. It was nicknamed Mortaritaville for all the incoming rockets and mortars we received at all different hours of the day and night. I remained at Camp Anaconda for about a month of some intense training, and I was outfitted with about 65 pounds of armor, fire suits and a helmet. That's a picture of me with, my wife says that's my Colonel Clink picture. On April 2nd, 2010, which was the 4-year anniversary of Eric's death, I passed out bookmarks with Eric's favorite poem, which was Footprints, if anybody's familiar with it. I passed it out to all my fellow drivers, and I asked them if they would read it. The feeling of actually being in Iraq on the day Eric passed, mind you, it was 4 years later, was just overwhelming. I guess it was, closure for me to actually stand on the ground that he might have stood on and fought on, obviously. I prayed and I thank God for all the blessings that He has bestowed upon me and my family. And I thank Him for the opportunity He had given me to fulfill Eric's mission. I was then transferred to Camp Adder in Toledo. And I was only there for a few days when I was told I'd be going to Camp Cedar on LOTD, which we called it, Loaned Out Truck Driver, to run a couple of fuel missions. Where were these missions headed? None other than Al-Assad, the very base where Eric was stationed. Wow, I was really going to get to walk a mile in his boots, maybe actually even step somewhere where he stepped. Our first mission was on April the 30th. I was in the 11th position in the convoy. Eric's body was found on the 11th. On the second mission, May the 2nd, 2010, I was in the second position of the convoy. On the 2nd of May, second position, Eric was killed on the 2nd of the month. Ripple after ripple, they just kept coming. I'm truly listening, God. That second mission was only my second solo mission. The other 3 missions I did before that were what they call right seat, left seat, right seat, left seat, left seat, right seat, left seat, left seat. And that means the first time outside the wire, I rode as a passenger with another driver. The second mission, he drove out and I drove back. And then on the third mission, I drove out and drove back, and he observed me and evaluated me. On one of these training missions, I went to Camp Victory, which is a camp that Eric had visited. On my trip to Al-Assad, I was able to see Eric's barracks, the motor pool. I even found a T-wall with Eric's unit painted on it. And the Marines had all gone by then. The Army had taken over, but this T-wall was still up. And I held Eric's picture up to that T-wall and had somebody take a picture of it. And ironically, up in the corner there says First Sergeant Singleton. First Sergeant Singleton was our CACO officer. He was the one that come to our house to inform us that Eric was missing, and then he also returned 9 days later to tell us that he had found Eric's body. So that was just another ripple. And as you can see, these ripples just kept coming and coming. We even had sent care packages to Sergeant Singleton while he was in Iraq as well. The other pictures you're looking at now were taken at various locations in Camp Al-Assad. If you could just go back to that one, this was the only memorial actually that I found at Camp Al-Assad, and I was hoping to find one that had Eric's name on it or whatever, but to be able to stand there in Iraq and memorialize my boy was pretty awesome. these are some of the other pictures just taken in Alisod, the type of equipment we drove. That tractor right there, normally in the U.S. would weigh about 18,000 pounds. All armored up the way it's armored up, it weighed about 25,000 pounds. Also on that mission, on the journey back from Alisod, an IED explosion went off on the side of the highway. Fortunately, no one was hurt and no trucks were damaged, but we stopped our convoy and we went lights out on the MSR, which we always did anytime we stopped our convoy, especially in the dark. We were stopped for about 15 minutes or so. I had Eric's picture taped to the windshield of my truck. I figured, well, his MOS, like I said earlier, was truck driver, and he had drove a lot of these roads, and I figured he'd be my guardian angel and drive him again with, excuse me, with me. So I kept looking up at Eric's picture, and I kept saying, where are these insurgents, Eric? You know, where are they? And I looked off to the right, and as I looked off, something told me to look to the right, and as I looked to the right, we come under small arm fire. The insurgent come out with a machine gun and started shooting at us. He was trying to get us to move because they had another IED set up further down the road. But the gun truck turned on this insurgent and shot him. And as he did that, they had been focused on a building that was just up in front of us. They had their lights focused on this building. Another insurgent come out of that building with an RPG. And I guess the guy in the gun truck, the soldier in the gun truck, unloaded on him with the 50 cal. With about 5 bursts out of that building, and that insurgent just turned to dust. And the feeling was I had mixed feelings about it. You know, watching somebody die for the first time in my life. To see, you know, somebody actually killed, I had very mixed emotions about it. But then I got to thinking about it, you know, well, they were trying to kill us, so I guess it's okay, but it was really tough. And I struggled a lot with it, and I prayed a lot, and that definitely helped me to get through it. As I go on here, we sat out there for probably 5 or 6 hours after that, and we had to wait for an EOD unit to come out and remove the other IED that was further down the highway. And after that, the convoy, our escorts decided that we'd had enough for the night. We were going to turn around. We had just passed Joint Base Balad, about 8 kilometers back, and we were going to turn around and go back to JBB, excuse me, and spend the night. When we got turned around on the other side of the highway, there was another IED there, and we had to sit and wait for them to remove that one as well. The rest of these pictures, after that mission, I was transferred to Talil, or from Talil to Kalamazoo, where I spent the rest of my tour in Iraq. The rest of these pictures are from some convoys. The outside temperature during these convoys, I believe the highest temperature it got while I was over there was 138 degrees.
Oh my God.
It was, to describe it to you, it was like somebody holding a hairdryer with a handful of sand and just holding it in front of your face. It was, well, there's a temperature on that picture there. That's inside the truck. It was a 9:51 in the morning, and it was 132 degrees outside temperature. And these boys, our men and women, are over there carrying around 80 pounds of gear, and my hat goes off to each and every one of them. This is a sandstorm, the beginning of one. Some of the stuff we had to drive through. The other pictures are, this is some of the equipment I drove, and some of the equipment that we hauled around for the military. And it was just pretty awesome to be able to experience everything. That's a tent I stayed in for about 3 months in Kalamazoo, and that was pretty neat. Met a lot of interesting people. That picture there is a Chinook helicopter. I'd never been on a helicopter before, and I got to ride in that several times, transferring from base to base, and, on my way home for R&R and my return here to the United States. I could go on and on with stories to share, but I haven't looked at Judith in a while. I haven't seen this yet. Oh, she's up there. I don't have the time to tell you everything I'd like to tell you, but I can tell you that Bobby and I are planning to write a book about our journey, our foundation, and our care package project, about our son Eric, and much more. And right now I'd like to introduce you to a gentleman that was nice enough to come and be with Bobby and I tonight. His name's James Pence. I'd like him to stand. Jim's written a couple of books. I don't know if you've ever read them. One of them is called Terror by Night, about a gentleman that his whole family was murdered one night. And it's just, his name was Terry Cappy. And just an awesome read. I don't know if you've ever read it, but it talks about how God inspired him from another book that Jim had written called Blind Sight. And he found a page out of that book at the remains of his home that was burnt down. And it was from that page out of that book that his wife had been reading that he got in touch with Jim. And it was, I believe, a passage from the Bible about Job, about how he gave up his whole family. And it just turned Terry's life around. And hopefully, maybe Jim, with God's grace and Jim's good writing, he'll be able to get our story out. So if you want to learn any more about my book or whatever, or my journey, you're going to have to buy the book. So, Jim has some books here with him tonight, by the way, Blind Sight and Terror by Night. If anybody would like to purchase one, I'm sure Jim would be happy to give you one, or sell you one. And it's not here for a plug. They're just great reads, and to have the author of these books here, it'd be great for him to autograph them for you. I'm looking forward to coming here again next year, and I guess later on this year there'll be some more pictures up running, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer after I'm done. And one other thing, in closing, I would like to ask a favor of all of you. It would be, excuse me, an honor and a privilege for me to dedicate my walk and my book, not only to our beloved son Eric, but to each and every one of you and all of the families of the fallen heroes who so bravely and unselfishly defended this great nation of ours. Thank you, God bless, and may God bless our troops.
Sit down just for a minute. I'd like to call on our little dear friend, Courtney Walker. Courtney, do you want to come up here for a minute, please?
Be over here.
Come on up here,
I don't think she's high enough.
Go down, let her down a little, there. There you go.
All right, Courtney's got a message to tell us, okay? Okay, what we're gonna say is that Courtney and her mom had a Girl Scout project. They're selling cookies. And they have brought the remainder of the cookies. They've already sent some to the care package project, Eric's, and now they got a few more boxes left that, now we have to tell them what it's about. Okay, that's really good. Courtney, thank you so much for that. Maybe she'll come over and clean the house. Peggy, did you want to come up very quickly and give the announcement? And then we're going to start our raffle, and we're going to